Um, do we have all panelists here? Someone should please confirm if I'm audible. Alright, thank you very much. Okay. Great. Is Diva here? No, she isn't. Alright, do we have all team members here? I can only see Kali's Angels. Team Wanted Unknowns, are you here? No. Please let me quickly go to the WhatsApp group and summon them. Please, if you know anybody from Team Wanted Unknowns, kindly help me fetch them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello. Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Alright, let me just try to help you, like, then as drop all the people. We count, let me just do the admin.
Thank you very much.
Hey, we have Tally. Do you have Tally's videos? I see all of you. I see all of you here. Me. We get it real quick. Unwanted unknown. Naila, where are you seeing them? We want to start around. Okay. Unmute and tell us what you think. Ah. Naila, we can't hear you. No. Okay, they must come.
Yeah.
Naila, yes?
They're arriving. Sorry.
Who is Tracy? Alright, as the other team, that team is coming, let me just do this real quick. Let me just confirm if all of the indicators are around. Please, if I call your name, just unmute. Obviously, the chair is around. Henry Coffey, are you around? Henry. All right. Ife, are you around? Help us pronounce well.
I'm around. I'm here.
All right, perfect. Myself, I'm here. Peace, you around? Peace. Just need verbal confirmation. Can you hear me? All right, we shall come back to peace. Raymond, please give us verbal confirmation that you are around. Okay, he's shown his availability in the text space. Buyewa Pulu, are you around? Please, could you just like confirm on the chat space? As this is gonna confirm. Can we? I believe all the team members of Wanted Unknowns are around, right?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Charlie's Angels, you're all around. Check that will help you with time in the text space. Otherwise, share. Yeah, the floor is back to you.
Thank you very much, James. So without wasting much of our time, we begin. But before that, please, POIs, when speakers want to speak, indicate how you'd like to accept or offer POIs. Please, on no account should you badger into someone else's speech, and note that protected time is the first minute of a person's speech and the last minutes of their speech. So do not ask POIs during the protected times. With that, we begin the grand finals of this tournament. Good luck to everyone. Without this, House welcomes the first speaker from the affirmative team to begin today's debate.
Can I confirm whether I'm audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay. So, to all the speakers, I'll be picking my POIs in the 5th minute of my speech, and I begin my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Panel. This house regrets the decision to operate on a young boy. We as team government, what do we actually provide to you in this very debate? First of all, panel, we as team government, we acknowledge the relevancy of every life. And we believe that entirely no life should actually be placed over the life of any other person. Yeah, we believe that every person's life is actually valuable and important to society in any situation. Panel, if you actually relate to this debate, in a way that the resolution comes at a time where the info slide clearly indicates the flow of things. We see, first of all, we see that the person in charge of the surgery is one who actually knows that. So the person to do all this is a person that actually exists. So in such a situation, we regret something that has actually done more harm on society. Entirely, the knowledge behind our regret is seeing the outcomes of something we have caused more chaos to society or more problems to society. If it actually, we see that if something has not actually achieved its original purpose, then entirely we do not need not to regret. So here we regret because of the decision that was entirely done. First of all, panel, we critically need to analyze and see a situation where we have a political person, a personality that is actually well known in society, recognized in society, and well important to society. So, Pano, in such a case scenario, where we see a person who is existing and is actually having an impact on the lives of many people in society by passing laws that actually tackle many lives in society, him being in a political position while we believe that, yes, many people are actually benefiting from him, they are actually taking many things from him in a way that he exists. So we want to show you why we actually the nature of the person that was actually there, or the position, or the political position. This person, in line with being a political leader, he was a person that was positioned to touch many lives. Being in society, certainly more people were actually benefiting from him initially. Second panel, if we also decide to take it on that, we see that we believe in the principle of first come, first serve. In a situation whereby this person was actually initially scheduled to actually take on the surgery of the politician, regardless of his political position, since it's him who was actually initially positioned to have the surgery, in even in a scenario of an emergency, we believe that he actually had an upper hand as per the principle of first come and first serve, because the schedule was actually standing in a way that the neurosurgeon knew that initially, even if anything happened, he was actually supposed to take on that life. Now that brings me back to where we said that we do acknowledge the relevancy of every life, because if you're seeing that this person was actually the neurosurgeon did not value the relevancy of his or of the politician's life, but rather he had to take on the life of the young boy. As per the principle, we see that this was not well positioned to actually be in such a position. Anyways, if you're to put it on a comparison, looking onto what is actually expected or unexpected outcome in the future, we see that reports clearly indicate that people who actually get shots in their head, or a gun that damage that is actually gotten by those people, most of them at the end of the day get traumatic brain injury. And you see that even in a future perspective, most of them are expected to actually end up dying, as they end up losing the value of life after getting traumatic brain injury, whereby these people are actually positioned to at any point in life to actually lose their life in the shortest time that is possible. So, panel, we are looking onto this on a comparative thing. We are having a politician who is providing to society. That pushes me to the utility that is actually expected. If you're to see it in line with utility, after this person was actually not like done on the surgery and he had to lose his life, we see that community had to actually come up, or the pressure from the politicians, the pressure that actually exists, that pushes the neurosurgeon out of actually a position where he would have been helping more people, even in a scenario where maybe a boy had died or anything, more people would actually been worked on in a situation whereby there wouldn't have existed things like the political pressure. But him being taken off the duty, we see that more chaos is actually existing in a certain one. So we are trying to regret such a situation because what was expected initially did not actually bring out what was supposed to be there. We see that the chaos that actually comes along as per the utility, we say that if we actually had taken on the politician, more utility would have been realized, whereby nothing like political pressure would have existed, and the doctor would have been in a position to actually work more people. If you're to put it on a comparative panel, still we believe that a person who is in such a position passing laws, many people are behind them. Team negative might actually try to stand out and say that maybe the young boy had a future or a bright future ahead, but we entirely say that they cannot actually guarantee that. They cannot entirely guarantee that the life of this boy would have been so much good in the future. And we are actually not against this child's existence, but we want to acknowledge the relevancy of every life. So, in a position of first come and first served, we need to do that linkage and show that entirely, indeed, we were supposed to put to give an upper hand to the person who came first, even in a situation where we do not consider anything like their political position. Panel, we need to see this analytically on what you actually expect. If you see that the future has more chaos, we tend to find a world that has more peace other than a world that has chaos. Because in a situation where such a person is actually taken down, more trouble comes in, more trouble from not just people in society, but politicians, not just politicians, but even doctors. So it puts this neurosurgeon in a situation whereby if the political pressure existed, he cannot actually even take up any other job at any single point because people would not actually want to take up such a person. So in such a situation, we entirely see that we as team government are positioned to really regret such a decision because the decision that was made causes more chaos or brings more backlash in society, as we see that more is lost than what is actually supposed to be benefited, and that wouldn't have been what any community would have required to have. I beg to raise.
We thank the speaker for that fine speech and call on the first speaker from the negative team to open the floor for the opposition team.
I audible. Am I audible?
Well,
I am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
yes, you are.
Okay, so I'm going to. My name is Muhammad Rema. I'll take my pure eyes verbally after the 5th minute. I'm going to set my timer and I begin my speech today. Whew. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. In life, not everything will turn out as expected. Not everything will be perfect. One thing is certain: everyone shall die when their time comes. We do not regret the decision of saving the boy's life. A few responses to the precurrent speaker's speech, right? So, first of all, what do we get from them? We get something about no life must be put ahead of any other life. But panel, we see as absurd, given the fact that they come and explain to us how the politician had actually contributed a lot to the society and his life must be put ahead, right? So this is a bit of a contradiction. So I doubt this argument should actually be coming from their side of the house. But also, secondly, right, they come and ask us, they come and set a criteria for something to be regretted, right? Something is regretted when its harms outweigh the benefits. Secondly, they tell us something is regretted when it hasn't achieved its purpose, right? So basically, this man, me, the doctor, I went and worked on this child, right? And this child was saved, right? The main purpose of working on this child was to save this child. So basically, this argument actually stands in this debate today, right? This argument does not stand here because the child's life was actually saved at the end of the day. Thirdly, right, they come and tell us that the political leader touches many lives, right? But Pano, we have to understand one thing. It wasn't even in the info slide or anywhere in this debate today that if I had worked on this political leader, his life would have been saved, right? So this is just an assumption, right? And I would have still worked on this political leader and his life wouldn't be saved. So basically, we doubt this argument stands in this debate today, right? We think that at any point in time, even if I worked on him or not, his life would still be in pain. Moving on, right? They come and tell us that, well, we should do fast come, fast serve, right? That is a principle that they want. But Pano, we believe that we should actually take humanity in. As human beings, right? I know that I'm the only one who can actually save someone's life. Why did I go for it, right? Because at any point in time, this politician could be saved by anyone else, right? This motion still shows us that this politician could be saved by those other people, but I am the only one who can save this child. So at that point in time, I take this as a human being, and I feel like we should actually go with humanity at this point in time. Moving on, finally, what do we get from them, right? They assume that at the end of the day, the boy will lose value of life and he won't actually turn into someone successful in the vast majority of instances. But no, we believe that at a point in time where his life is saved and he sees that this doctor has saved his life and he sees that he was once going to die, it gives him a more reason to live, right? It gives him a reason to fulfill all those things that he would have wanted to fulfill because he knows that, well, I would have died at that point in time, but I must make this person proud who made me like stay alive. Now, let's take an example, right? I was knocked when I was 5 years of age, right? I went into a coma for 4 years, right? At that particular point in time, for 4 months, right? So when I woke up at that point in time, I still saw value in life because I saw that I was saved at that particular point in time. And I would want to actually show people that I was saved for a reason, not for no reason, right? So, Bana, we believe that this argument can even fall on two sides, even if they were to come and refute that sort of argument, because we believe that human beings value life differently. The way I value life isn't the way another person would value life. So at this point in time, without disagreements and in this debate, right, panel, the criteria for why we actually regret something or why someone would regret something is A, when it was not necessary, or B, when it is not principally justified. But we're going to show you why this sort of act actually does not fit in any of these criteria, hence showing you why we actually take this debate today. 3 arguments we're going to front you in this debate today. First of all, the role of a medical personnel. Secondly, what death is in of itself. Thirdly, we're going to give you our principal justification and we show you why it is actually justified to save the future generation, right? Moving on. What is the role of a medical personnel, right? Panel, we believe that the role of a medical personnel is to save lives at any particular point in time, right? So this motion shows us that at this point in time, it was this boy's life which was on the line, right? It shows us that I was the only person who could save this boy's life, right? So at this point in time, my role is to save that boy's life because I still know that this political leader could be saved by someone else. But also, this has 2 implications, right? We have to understand the urgency of the matter, right? Let's look at this boy. He's been shot in the head, but this politician has been living with this disease for like literally his whole life or like some part of his life, right? So we have to look at urgency. Who needs me more, right? Is it the boy who needs me more because his life is on the stake? He is about to die, but this politician shows no signs of going to die or anything. That's why it was been an appointment, right? So, Pana, we believe that we should look at the urgency of life and like that sort of thing. But also, secondly, it prevents that regret that would have come in me knowing that I had the chance to save this boy's life and I was the only one to save this boy's life, but I didn't save this boy's life. So I feel like it is actually good at that point in time. Moving on, secondly, we have to look at what death is in of itself, right? We have to understand that death is a factor that cannot be run away from. Death shall come for everyone, and death comes at any particular point in time. We have to understand that staying in regret for saving this boy doesn't solve anything because it was a politician's time of death. Panel, we have to understand that his chances of survival were even minimal at that point in time as a politician. He has lived with that disease for a very long time, right? So his time of death was actually near. So why should I stay in regret about someone who was actually bound to die at the end of the day with his disease? But also, secondly, we have to understand that faith is something that comes for everyone. Faith is something that you can never run away from. It was this politician's fate to die, and it actually happened. So staying in regret for that sort of politician does not solve any sort of thing, and it is something that we would actually run away from, right?
Yeah.
Moving on finally. Okay, taken. 3.
Don't you think if it was that is? Don't you think that if it was up to the doctor operating on the politician, that he would have had a higher chance of survival?
I doubt it actually works like that, right? We have to understand that me knowing that this politician could be saved by other people was the reason why I gave other people to save that politician. But it clearly says that I am the only one who can actually save this boy. So why not go and save this boy who I know I am the only one who can save him? Because it clearly shows that this politician could be saved by any other sort of person in this world. But this boy could not be saved by anyone. So I feel like there are no chances here, right? It was his time to die and he died. So what? Moving on finally, right? We have to preserve the younger generation at this point in time, right? This politician has lived his life. He has fulfilled his purpose in life, like what the other side of the house said. But now we have to look out for that boy, right? This boy is a young boy who still has a bright future ahead of him, right? So basically, we have to fulfill this and like we look out for like this younger generation, right? Maybe this boy will turn into this politician at the end of the day. So I feel like that is it. But finally, we believe that it is actually a better world for me. Why? Because I get a sort of fulfillment for saving someone who I could only save, right? It is an achievement to me that I actually uphold very highly. Even if I like a politician, right? I know that it was only me who could save this boy, and I've actually saved him at the end of the day. But also, secondly, even if I'm fired for my job or all those sorts of things, and like my politician image is ruined, you have to understand that those people are actually going to value me a lot, right? The family of the boy, the general public, different people who actually like life, right? Different hospitals are going to value me because I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Saving this life was something that couldn't be done by anyone, but I have actually saved this life. So to hell with that sort of politician public image. But also finally, we believe that no regret haunts me in this particular world because I know I've saved the boy, right? Pano, we believe that on our side of the house, we trade off our job, we will trade off political favor in order to stake it on the younger generation. And we believe that death is inevitable. Even if this politician died, we believe that the agency that we had to actually fulfill was the agency of saving the young boy's life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that fine speech. With that, I'm going to call on the second speaker from the affirmative team to continue the case. Ready when you are.
My name is Nalimba, and I'll take my 4 eyes in that space. Thank you very much, and I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Can let's understand the matrix in order to win this debate, right? Number one is that something is justified to be regretted if it has done more harm than good. Then also secondly, if it has achieved most utility. So panel, before I move on any longer, let's first acknowledge one thing clear from our first speaker, and that is every life matters and no one's life is more important than the other. Even though I feel like that the negative impact of the politician's death outweigh that the boy's death would have had. So putting that into consideration, let's first move on to what arguments are going to be presented by me. Number one, why the reputation of the hospital? Secondly, the complexity of the surgery, and thirdly, the value of the politician. But before we move on, let's first do a bit of rebuttal. So what do we get from our first opposition, right? And this was very important in their case. They talked about how the politician had a full life, right? Had lived his life to the fullest, and therefore, he has achieved his purpose. And that necessarily, honestly, even if they don't say it, I feel like it implies that since he lived his purpose, therefore he should die, or therefore he should have died. This is what side opposition comes and tells us, right? Since the politician had lived his life. But kind of let's understand that even in the info slide talks about it, the neurosurgeon lived up to his policy. He commended them, meaning that the politician's work was important and it continued to be important for the community. And that is an important thing to consider in this debate. This person's life, the role model he presented in this particular society was very valuable, and it serves a great loss to the community that he met his demise. Secondly, they talk about how the role of the medical personnel, right? And that is to save lives. I understand, panel, that the medical attention at that particular time was necessary, but then we are going to argue still that it was important for the doctor to look towards helping the patient. And therefore, we also have to analyze that it talks about how critical that condition was. Therefore, his life wouldn't have been given someone else. He was appointed as one of the best surgeons in the country, let's say. So meaning that he was the only one to help him, given that even the person they gave him to, maybe his second best, died in his hands. So therefore, this was the only man who could have saved his life, and therefore he was an important factor. Secondly, this doctor has had a commitment to that doctor, as presented from our first speaker, which shows how the argument of our speaker stands, how the first person to arrive is no, how the first person there should have been served first. But given that the medical attention was important, it's okay. So thirdly, they talk about how the uncertainty of the political leader being saved. And therefore, that the loss of life isn't as terrible as a boy whose life is ahead of him. Notice how side opposition values the little boy's life over the other, as opposed to what our side fights for. And therefore, we are looking towards a better decision for our doctor. So moving on to our arguments, what are we talking about in this debate that wins us, this round? One argument is because of the reputation of hospital. Let's look at the impacts that have happened because of this young boy's death. We are facing political pressure from the politician's family. He had a family, he had loved ones, he had people who cared and loved him. He had a community to look out for. He presented policies, right, that serve the community. We are looking at a person who promoted the development of that particular country, promoted the economic benefits of that country. Being that he's a politician, he had a lot of power. So now you're looking at hospital being faced with a lot of backlash because of the decision made by one doctor, now that he has been fired. So what does this look like? We're looking at a hospital likely to go bankrupt in multiple lawsuits because of the decision that they made. We are looking at people not being able to access medical attention or less medical attention because of a decision made by one man. Looking at a doctor, right? We're looking at a doctor who has fired from his workplace, and that has a long-term effect. A person who has been fired, unemployed, and thanks to that political pressure, is likely to lose his license in the lawsuits and many lawsuits. So he's not likely to get a job. We are seeing many people who are affected in this. Our second argument talks about the complexity of the surgery. Let's understand what a gunshot wound to the head is. We're looking at a 42 chance of survival, and even if you survive, there are long-term complications. We're looking at a child who is likely not even be able to speak again, who is likely to go into a vegetative state where he can only live, but he can do nothing else. We are looking at how serious this is, and how, yes, the doctor could have performed the surgery, but we are overlooking the importance of the politician, given that he would have survived, not if, but he would have survived if he was put under the care of this particular neurosurgeon. So a person who has great benefits and value to our community, we feel that the benefits of this particular politician outweighs this boy. And that brings us to the principal justification in our side of the debate, and that is utility. Promoting the greatest good for the greatest number. Finally, we are looking at the neurosurgeon, right? The hospital and its reputation and integrity. We are looking at the community at large, whereby countless numbers of people have been depending on this particular politician because of his integrity, his good ethics, being that he was an honest man, and even his morals and policies were commended and acknowledged by this very same particular neurosurgeon. And thirdly, our third and most important argument was the value of the politician. And as I said before, this is a person who has a great big role to play in the community. And I'm not saying the young boy's life is not as important, but in this particular scenario, I think it's also important to put into context that this person was very valuable to this community, and therefore it is very important, and it's very important that we regret that such a hasty decision would have been made. And we believe that the surgeon could have left the medical what the medical the okay in that medical attention to that young boy. We believe another surgeon who would have taken over, given that he had a very clear commitment from the politician and his family. So, panel, what do we bring to this debate, and why does side opposition win this debate? Number one, we show you that a lot of people depend on the politician, right? And that is how utility comes to play here. We show you how we're looking out for the greatest good, for the greatest number. We're looking at the community, the doctors, the people, the hospital, the neurosurgeon himself who is fired because of a hasty decision that made. And since we are both no, and since we are both humans, panel, it is also important to acknowledge that the politician's life was also as important as the boy, right? He also had a family. So if you put in a boy's life over the other side, politician says, since he had a young life, it goes to show that the politician's life didn't matter as well. And that is what side opposition is portraying. So I believe that it is best to judge that understanding the situation in this particular instance, even though all human lives matter, I believe in this scenario it is important that the politician's life would have been considered more. Thirdly, we show you how the complexity of the surgery was very important. How the boy, sorry, how the politician had more chances of survive. You look at a gunshot wound that could permanently, like could permanently affect the young boy. But no, since the politician has lived a full life, so says opposition, he should die. So as I rest my case, I show you how the value of the politician is important. I show you how the complexity of the surgery would have likely saved the politician if he was put in the right hands. And I show you how, the reputation of the hospital is also at stake. And it's for this reason that the panel should vote inside proposition. Thank you.
Very much, speaker, for that speech. We call on the second speaker from the negative team to begin the case.
And I prefer gender pronouns she or her, and I'll be taking my POIs verbally. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Final motion today is this House regrets the decision to operate on the young boy. As we've already read out the info slide and you already understand the context of this debate. So one thing I want to put clear in this debate is that this is the best neurosurgeon, yes, but this person is not a life giver, because in whatever decision he would have made, he could either make the person could still die, or the person could actually keep his life. Whether it was the young boy or the politician, he's not a giver of life. All he's there to do is actually just carry out some procedures and see if actually life can move on for whatever person he decided to actually work on. So team purple, I'm going to first start with summary, but then go into our case again. So team opposition comes and clearly states that every life matters, and we should not put they're not putting any life above any other person's life. But then let us look into context and actually understand what was happening. This person, yes, was scheduled to actually carry out a surgery on a very important politician. And yes, because he's the best neurosurgeon. But then on the same day of the surgery, a boy comes in with a gunshot wound in his head, and he is the only person to actually work on this boy. At this rate, we see that on the side of the politician, there could be another neurosurgeon who could actually work on the politician. But for this boy, he was the only one who could actually do it. There's no other person to actually do it. So let us try to also look at him as he was thinking. He made the right decision because for example, if we are looking at all life, we should not put any life above any other person's life. Because at this rate, if he had decided to choose to work on the politician, automatically this boy would have died because this needed immediate attention. This boy would have died, and yeah, the politician, we are also going to work on him, but there is no guarantee that he's actually going to survive. We are just playing on chances. Yes, he may survive, he may not survive, because this is just the best neurosurgeon, but then that doesn't mean that he is the giver of life. So with this, we feel like, yes, he did actually made the right decision. Yes, things might have happened. It's just because that people do not accept the truth of life. But the truth is the doctor is just there and he's not the giver of life. So another point they give is first come, first serve. Yes, we understand that. But then there were other neurosurgeons that could actually work on this man, and I doubt he made a decision, because we already see that the politician makes policies that this neurosurgeon actually likes. And yeah, he's not against this politician. He did not make a decision or choose a neurosurgeon that was going to play around with the politician's life. He chose maybe a neurosurgeon who could actually do something very good on this politician. Though things happened badly, but then that doesn't mean that it was the neurosurgeon's fault. It was the other neurosurgeon's fault. The person maybe had to die at that exact point. At this rate, we see that was actually what is happening. As my first speaker already told you, the role of a doctor is actually to save a life. So at this rate, we really had to save a life. Because if he had chosen the other side, this boy would have actually died. If they really want to show that all lives actually matter, they have to also show us what should have happened to this boy if, for example, he had not done anything. Yes, they talk about the backlash from the politician's family and all that, but still see that there would be backlash, or yes, he would still get regret, for example, if this boy had died, because he had to make a decision. And I feel like, yeah, he made the right decision at this rate. So yeah, they still talk about, they acknowledge the relevance of every life, but they still want to show that the politician's life, yes, the politician's life is very important, and because of all the things he has done. But then we have to also remember that his decisions were not made on his decision was not made like against this politician and all that. He chose a neurosurgeon that was actually okay, and he could actually carry out this surgery and still be successful. Things just happened and the person died, because yes, even though he had done it, the person could still have died. Why should we keep on regretting it? We are not the ones that actually give their lives. Like, even though he had done it, still there is no guarantee, there is nothing that says that politician would have actually stayed alive. So they talk about backlash from the hospital and all, backlash from the politician's family and all, political pressure and stuff like that. But then we have to also remember, yes, these things have happened and all that, but let's also take, for example, yes, he had worked on that guy and he had worked on the politician, but still things happened badly and that person has died. We're still going to keep on regretting. Things happen, he's not the giver of life, and at this rate, all he has to do is understand that he's not the giver of life, he's just a mere doctor. His job denied. So back to our case. Here I'm mainly going to run through some stakeholder analysis. Let's take, because we are working on a regret motion, we have to go back to this time when he was making a decision. When he was making a decision before he actually decided to operate the boy. Maybe he could have, operated the politician, but in this case, as I already told you, there is no guarantee anywhere that you could have actually saved the politician's life. Yes, the politician has many things, but then until you maybe put up a guarantee that this person will actually, number one, this politician is going to survive if this best neurosurgeon actually worked on him, or that for example, this neurosurgeon put a bad chose a bad neurosurgeon to work on this politician. Maybe that we could actually go on your side, but he made the right decision, because at the end of the day, the boy would have died, and also the politician, at the end of the day, the boy would have died, and also you never know, the politician could still have died. So at this rate, which we see that this neurosurgeon actually made the right decision. Point of information accepted.
Okay, the urgent situation. Do you still defend it given the likelihood of many people losing out on medical care after the hospital runs bankrupt or shuts down?
Yes, okay, yes, I accept. Yeah, but then, as I've been stressing out from the beginning of my speech, this neurosurgeon is just there. Okay, like he's not a giver of life. What if still things happen and all that? We did not choose. He did not choose another neurosurgeon basing on like I do not like this politician and stuff like that. He chose another neurosurgeon. Maybe this person like the second to him and all that. Yes, he knows what he's doing. Yes, even though he's the best, but still, remember, he was the only one that could save the boy. We understand there are so many things that have been lost because the politician died, but still, we are not the giver of life. Still, things could have happened. So we understand there could have been a mistake or anything and all that, but then at the end of the day, things remain that the politician at this exact rate would still have died. We are not saying that we do not wish the politician death, but at the end of the day, whether me or you or anyone, at the end of the day, we will all die. But then at this rate, we are actually looking at we do not want any of these people to die, but we are trying to save everyone's life. And that's actually what the politician did. And so we feel like he should not regret because he saved the boy's life. The politician, yes, died, but he actually did what he could do in his power by assigning another neurosurgeon. So on the stakeholders, we see at the end of the day, the boy's life survived. And for the politician, he just has for the neurosurgeon, he just has to accept that things that sometimes do not work out the way he had planned and all that. Yes, he may have lost his job, but the truth remains that he's the best neurosurgeon, and we feel like that's that for that time. And in the future, people will still welcome him because his talent is still because his talent does not die and things happen. He's not the giver of life. With these judges, I've never been prouder to oppose.
Thank you very much, class speaker, for that speech. And I call on the whip speaker for the affirmative to begin their speech.
Am I audible? Can someone confirm if I can be heard?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I think you just unmute yourself in case you have a POI. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, before I go into what happened in this debate, I just want to ask side opposition to come and tell us how bright this boy's future is, what he's going to become, how sure are we he's going to become, how sure are we he won't be the next Adolf Hitler, Idi Amin, etc. Right? The most close response I would have to this is, oh, because he has been treated, he would be indebted to, let's say, like the community, the surgeon, etc. But then at a point in time, we have seen kids being given like big opportunities and still being ungrateful, even when that is a like even that when is even when that is a possibility. We don't think at a point in time when they come and argue that this boy has a bright future, this argument still stands. But even before that, I'd like to give side opposition a bit of clarity, right? The operation on the politician could only be done by that doctor alone, according to the info slide. So whatever argument all their speakers came talking about how he could be treated by someone else, etc., is completely invalid because I read and I quote, "You are the best neurosurgeon in a prominent hospital who is scheduled to perform an important critical surgery on a politician that you are the only one placed to perform." That entirely means that this politician was the only one who could perform it. So basically, most of their case was about how he could be treated by someone else. That's why they gave him
the other surgeon, etc. It all falls out on this debate, right? But then what has then been the major crash of this debate? Which side of the house has less regrets, right? What is the major, what does opposition mainly advance? Number one is that if this doctor is not the giver of life, and yet there are the same people who come and say that at the end of the day, if the doctor didn't treat the boy, he was going to die. So that necessarily means he's the giver of life. But even secondly, right, how it was his time to die, this is like the major argument that being given. A couple of reasons why this is not true. First of all, according to this debate, a person's chances of surviving, i.e., maintaining that sort of life, depends on the doctor treating them. That is why if this surgeon went and left the boy but sent another surgeon to that, if this surgeon left the boy and went to treat the politician and sent another neurosurgeon to the doctor, there are chances this boy would not survive, right? Like she had said earlier, that entirely means that in this sort of debate, a person's chances of surviving necessarily depended on the doctor. But even secondly, right? We feel his decision was completely immoral. At a point in time where he knew he was the only one who could treat that politician, but still decided to go and send another neurosurgeon to treat him, that is entirely murder in itself. This guy literally killed the politician. He clearly knew he was the only one who could treat that politician, but decided to send, let's say, decided to send another neurosurgeon, right? At this point in time, this boy is bleeding, made his decision irrational, and that's why he sent maybe the neurosurgeon, another neurosurgeon, etc., and that landed on his death, and that landed to his death. But even thirdly, right, they come and tell, and then another reason why they did not regret, it's because people are going to praise him, right, for like his good deeds. People are going to praise him for treating the boy, etc. But Pano, notice how in that first speech he came and told us how you're trading off his job at the expense. You're trading off his job at the expense of this small boy. Okay, Pano, let us take them at their best and assume that okay, it was actually the right choice to actually treat the boy. What happened in their world? In their world, number one, this guy has lost his job. I.e., this one boy is, i.e., the amount of patients he would have treated in, like, let's say, like the next 1 year, etc., and then it would probably lead to their death, given that at a point in time where he's fired from his job, not that this is a political party that is after him. This looks like this person, let's say, was supposed to treat Bobby Wine, but he decided to give a neurosurgeon that literally killed him. So he literally looks like the murderer of Bobby Wine, right? Notice how the people who follow this, like the followers of the political party, are not going to let him rest in peace. Even the political party itself, notice how he has been fired, but there's a likelihood he's going to be sued. Right? At the end of the day, look at how many lives he would have saved. He has left one boy that didn't have power at the ex. He saved one boy that didn't have power at the expense of all those many lives. Forget the surgeon, the hospital itself is under political pressure. Look at all those surgeons, right? This surgeon, okay, assuming you didn't buy into my first idea, this is a hospital that treats thousands of people. If a hospital is, let's say, under political pressure, this looks like court cases, this looks like them wanting them to be closed, etc. All those patients that could have been treated at this point in time still go. So when they come and argue how this boy's life was actually worth it, we are sacrificing one boy at the expense of over those 500 patients. We feel this is a major reason to regret, right? I've already come and told you how when they come and talk about how how it was his time to die already still falls out of this debate. But even when they come and talk about how his life wouldn't have been safe, we come and tell you how this doctor was the only one who could literally treat. This doctor was the only one who could come and treat this politician, right? But then, notice how in all their speeches we come and tell you the aftermath of their chaos, right? This is what our side of the house has entirely been regretting: the aftermath of the chaos, the aftermath of this boy. Of the doctor treating the boy against the politician, right? Look at how this boy they claim has a bright future, but the politician is in position to create bright futures for specific amounts of people, right? This boy, we don't know, he could be even 5 years, 10 years. So look at how he has to now grow and let say he indeed has a bright future, how he now has to grow university, etc. By the time he makes an impact, look at let's compare it to the amount of time if this doctor actually came and treated this politician, how this politician would have had who would have been in position to influence people's lives, right? At the point in time where we take away the politician, even let's say what if the boy's mother himself, what if the boy's mother was depending on, let's say, money given by the politician, this boy then doesn't go to school, etc. So at a point in time where whereby the doctor had the decision to choose a life that has the ability to affect thousands of people. I mean, that at a point in time where this doctor had a opportunity to choose between saving a life that could affect many people. Yes, I know. What has been argued in this debate is no life is more important than other. With no life is like every life is equal, but we're looking at a point in time saving who's like what would achieve whose life would achieve more utility if it was saved. We're looking at this 5-year-old boy or whatever age he is versus this politician that has an opportunity to influence decisions, etc. Even when they come and argue that, oh, this guy has already lived his life, he has done whatever he has done, we still feel like he's still a politician. Moreover, he's actually good because in the info slide it clearly says the doctor actually believes in the decisions he has literally made, right? At this point in time, we then believe that the doctor's decision to pick a life the doctor's decision to pick a life that doesn't have that much influence in life, or would basically have no other have any other implications to society as a bad decision.
Thank you very much, the speaker, for the speech, and we call on the RIP speaker for the negative team. Thank you.
I just need confirmation whether everyone can get me clearly.
Yes, you are audible.
All right. I will take POIs verbally, and I'll take them in my 5th and 6th minute. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So the motion before us states. Sorry, I'll start again. So team opposition comes today, and then in their first speech, what do we get from them? They tell us that everyone's life is valuable, and then they tell us definitely how the politician has greater impact on society, and then they tell us that they acknowledge the relevance of every life. But how are they acknowledging the relevance of every life if they show us how the politician is actually of greater impact on society, and how we should have prioritized the politician's life more than the boy's life? Then they tell us that the leader was helping many, and then how has the boy been helping many of those? Well, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to understand that as a doctor, as a surgeon, my responsibility, it has been said from my first speech to my second speech, is to save lives. And the question in tonight's debate, like my second speaker mentioned, is whether it was a regret to the doctor or it is not a regret. And what do we say in tonight's debate? It is not a regret because, first of all, the philosophy that exists in the boy could only be treated by this surgeon. And I am the surgeon in this place. I've been ranked the best surgeon. So I know which means to take. I know what is best for the patients. So I wonder why I would be, first of all, fired for having made such a decision. Secondly, the reputation of the surgeon doesn't matter if they, like my reputation as a doctor doesn't really matter. If the hospital wants me, the hospital wouldn't have fired me, because now someone is telling us in their speech that the hospital's because it's from their second speaker, the hospital's reputation is at stake. So my point here is not how at stake the reputation of the hospital is. Our issue here is human life. Is human life important, or is the state of the hospital more important than human life? The politician had options, but the boy didn't have. So we have to prioritize the boy who is about to die and had no options, because you find that this politician has waited for this surgeon for a long time, and definitely we needed to first of all work on the issue here is urgency and importance. Both of them are important surgeries, but there was an urgent one, and which was the boy's surgery. So they come in their speeches and they tell us their third speaker comes and tells us that the surgery could only be done by this surgeon. We do not disagree. But by the time someone who is more experienced in this field goes on to make such a decision, meaning they have weighed the harms, they have weighed the benefits, and they have weighed the outcomes, so they understand exactly what they are going to do. Proposition does not think about that. We clearly tell you that we do not regret, because our main issue, ladies and gentlemen, here is to save lives. And as long as we have not, as long as we have saved life, we do not mind losing jobs, because at the end of that day, why we do not regret is because we have attained our goal, which is to save a life. And they come and tell us of how complex the surgery was and how the chances of survival for the boy are minimal, but the chances of survival for the politician are actually very great. But then we would like to inform you that if at all this, like my second speaker said, that if it was a politician's time to die, even if the best surgeon had worked on this politician and the odds had that he had to die, he would definitely die. And now when they say that everyone's life is important and they do not prioritize anyone's other life over the other, why are the political parties and other people coming against the surgeon for choosing to save a life over some other life? So we need to understand at the end of the day that there is no problem that has been caused. And we need to understand, first of all, that since we are looking since we are looking for equality of both lives, we find that we are looking for health at the end of the day. We are ensuring that we are giving human life. So there is no need to actually prioritize one over the other. We would be in a position of regret if we really cared about the job. But the mere fact that we can actually go ahead to do something without even having a job in a particular place, we can go ahead and help communities and people in different places without this particular job in this particular hospital, then we can actually go on. So at the end of that day, we regret, as team opposition, we do not regret for saving the boy's life. They say, what if this boy we talk about the boy's future and how probably the boy is going to turn out to be another impactful person in society, how maybe the person will also end up being a politician and all that. But they tarnish that because of their selfish desires, because they feel like it is the politician's life, it is the politician's impact on society, it is how great and how known the politician is. And therefore, we have to prioritize that. It is not until they understand the values of humanity that they come down and understand the point of view that we understand this particular debate. Let them come to our context and understand that it's not about one's reputation, it's not about one's impact, but it's about the urgency and the importance. We have realized that they're both important surgeries. Then we realize that one surgery is more urgent than the other. By the time this surgeon goes ahead to transfer this politician's surgery to another surgeon and not the boy, he knows how urgent this is. He knows how delicate the issue is. So we, as this surgeon, we do not regret. I'll take your POI.
Okay, you talk about the urgency of the situation. Don't you think that the impact of losing a hospital as well as a person becoming jobless is enough grounds for regretting a decision? Keeping in mind we were not undervaluing a human life, but rather
you have clearly stated that your question is either the hospital or human life. Now, first of all, the surgeon has been fired from the hospital, and the case is no longer a case of the hospital. It is a case of an individual, because it is not the hospital as a whole that made that decision. It is the surgery who the hospital trusts that made that decision. So because of pressure, the hospital is ending up losing actually a very important person. But why is this person getting fired, first of all? if really there was importance in this person. If you cannot trust an employee for particular decisions, and yet you trust that this employee is actually the best in a particular field, and when things don't go right, you actually blame this person, I'm sure no one will come out to regret the choice to carry out a surgery on this boy, if at all it is actually the politician who turned out successful. So we must understand that at the end of the day, as a doctor, my aim is not just to work on who is more important, who has more impact, on who is actually greater than who, on who came first, because they come here and tell us that first come, first serve. My aim as a doctor is to make sure that everyone has life, and I will take whatever decision it requires me to ensure that everyone has life. So if, in my understanding, because we need to know by the time of decision taking, like my second speaker told us, what did the surgeon consider to ensure that he comes to a particular conclusion? Why does he choose to carry out surgery on the boy and not on the politician? We have looked at the urgency and the importance. We have found out that both of them are important, but one was more urgent than the other. So with all this said, and the STEAM proposition comes with some fire speech to, tell us how they literally would regret this. Tell us how they can justify the fact that they can even fire someone that they trusted with a particular position. I believe they do not have a stand in tonight's debate. I have never been prouder than to oppose. Rest my case.
This House thanks the Speaker for the very kind speech and calls on the reply Speaker for the negative team to round up the debate for the opposition bench.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Can I be heard? Oh, okay. Okay, so Muhammad Rema, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, one thing that we have to understand at the end of today is that staying in regret wouldn't solve anything. We have to move forward, chase other things, right? And this is something that the doctor themselves know, right? Because at the end of the day, even if we stay in regret, right, about like the death of that politician, we aren't going to bring back that life. He died, and after someone dies, they do not come back at the end of the day. So we have to pursue other things that are actually going to build upon. That's why we believe that staying in regret isn't a good world, but rather a better world is a world where this doctor actually leads this sort of regret, and this doctor looks for things that he would actually benefit from, right? So one thing that we have to note from side affirmative is that they really assumed a lot in this debate. Like, they assumed to the extent that no one can actually kill them at that job, right? So first of all, they assumed that the boy's life could be saved by anyone, right? Panel, not that in the info side, it showed that this boy's life could only be saved by this particular doctor. So that is basically a premise which we actually take over in this debate today. Secondly, they assumed that the politician's surgery was too complex for any doctor to actually do. But we feel like at this point in time where a well-experienced doctor actually gave his life to someone else, actually believed that his life could be saved by anyone else, and his death was just supposed to happen, because at the end of the day, we show you that death is inevitable, and when it's your time to die and fate actually comes for you, you are supposed to go. So that is a premise that they cannot actually take over. And finally, they assume that I, the doctor, I am a life giver, right? Because basically they say that if I had worked on this politician, right, his life maybe would have been saved. But we have to understand that the laws of nature work like this. If I am supposed to die today, die today. No one is going to give me another life. That is something that the other side of the house fails to understand in this debate today. The thing is, regret is not something that we should take upon, because at the end of the day, this politician would have died even if I worked on him, or even if any other person worked on him, because it was his time to die. Now, that is why we actually take this over. But let's move on to the premises of regret that actually brought about in this debate today. First of all, we got two major premises, right? You regret something when it is not necessary, right? We got this from all their speeches. Secondly, we got something about principal justification, right? Why you actually regret something. And finally, when it harms outweigh the benefits. But we have to understand that in this motion, we were also looking out for the doctor themselves, right? What will the doctor would have wanted to do at the end of the day, right? Well, we analyzed you three major arguments, right? We showed you the role of medical personnel, right? We showed you why what death is in of itself, and we showed you our principal justification, where we actually came and proved to you that this surgery was actually very necessary to work on this boy, because at the end of the day, I was the only person who could work on this who could work on this child to actually save this child, which actually prevented me to actually be in regret, because I knew that I could save him, but I didn't save him. So I would say in some sort of regret, but it prevented me from being in this sort of regret. So it actually is a better route for me. But also, secondly, the principal justification. We doubt that a principle of first come, first serve actually stands ahead of the principle of urgency, right? Who needed the medication more urgent? Someone who shot in the gun with in the head with a gun, or someone who has been having his complications since, well, he started swindling all our money, right? So, Pana, I feel like this is a question of urgency, and we proved to you why this child actually had needed more urgency than this sort of politician. But also, finally, when the hands out with the benefits, right? Pana, we believe that this doctor got satisfaction, this doctor got fulfillment, right? And like he got a good image in the public. Maybe the politicians didn't like him, but the people actually care about, right, lives of people, right, of different groups of people. I feel like they actually look good for him. So I rest my case by saying that we take this debate today because we proved to you beyond reasonable doubt that actually it was justified for this person to actually take this stance of saving this child. I rest my case.
Can I
Thank
confirm
the
what I'm for?
speaker for that fine speech. With that, we call on the very last speaker for this debate to round up the entire debate.
Can I confirm what I'm audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Pano, I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Pano, first of all, I want to bring light to the house that entirely Team Negative was a bench of liars, as it has standard in this debate, to actually lie to us. Entirely, what do we see? We see these people. We do not entirely understand whether they had some other info slide, not the one we had, because they shot to the house and paint a picture that the politician was actually not in a position of only being saved by this neurosurgeon. A thing that we actually showed you that it is clear in the info slide that this person was in line to save that life. What actually was in this debate? First of all, we told you that we do acknowledge the relevancy of every life. And they conceded to that fact and they had to agree. But then we also told you that even in a situation whereby we decide to put away the good things attached to the politician, the fact that he's a person who actually came first, principally, he was justified to actually receive the medication before anyone else. The fact that he actually came first. So we do not actually get we see a contradiction that team opposition tried to paint. Second panel, we showed you that we also needed to make an analogy on what would actually be the outcomes. We painted a picture and showed you of the backlash that would exist, the chaos, the political pressure, and we see that it would actually make society lose more than it would have gained. Another thing that actually showed, we showed you that morally, in doctorate as a doctor, he was not supposed to actually turn away from his duty that he had initially taken on, because we see that the politician had actually come first before anything. Another thing that we actually showed you in this debate, we proved to you that the politician was actually holding value regardless of everything. He was a person that was actually implementing things that were vital and important to society. So community was actually benefiting in line with the utility that we were actually able to show you panel. We brought light to the house and we were able to express that to our best. We see that team negative actually contradicts. They say a doctor is not a giver of life. Then they say that if actually he had not worked on the boy, he would have died. So entirely that shows that he was giving life. In a fact that they say that the doctor was obligated to saving lives, then morally and principally he was justified to save the life that came in first. So entirely, we see that the whole of the negative bench did not entirely understand the info slide, and we entirely see that all their arguments were actually running outside this debate. Even after receiving a contextualization, they decided not to agree with that, and they decided to debate it at that. But even if we were to take it in a position that they actually provided it, we see that in line with moral capacity, the principles that we actually provided to you in this very debate, we see that we actually positioned to win this debate. The fact that this person was actually in a profession that is supposed to dance to the tunes of the setup of a profession. So we see that entirely what they describe, they try to position the boy's life over the life of the politician, even after putting away all factors attached to their existence. So we entirely show you that both lives were relevant, but they were supposed to work on a person who actually appeared first. So we stand a position to win tonight's debate because entirely Team Negative did not understand a case that we actually provided to them. So to avoid chaos and everything, we provide a better case for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for that speech. And we've come to the end of the grand final of this particular tournament. Good luck to all teams. Um, Adjudicators, please let's move to room 14 for deliberation.